You ever notice how the world looks at a man with no girlfriend like something's missing, like his value got cut in half because nobody's holding his hand? They whisper about loneliness, about emptiness, about what he doesn't have. But let me tell you something, sometimes not having is the biggest blessing you can carry, because when there's nobody around to clap for you, you learn how to clap for yourself. When there's no soft shoulder to lean on, you learn how to stand taller. When there's no one to remind you of your worth, you learn how to build it from the ground up. A man with no girlfriend isn't broken. He's in training. He's sharpening his spirit, protecting his energy, stacking his vision, and learning discipline that most people skip. The world wants you to think you're behind. Now you're just in the gym of life, put in reps the crowd can't see. And one day, when the lights hit you, when the results show, when your name carries weight, the same people who doubted you will realize your solitude wasn't weakness, it was preparation. Self-mastery is the foundation of everything a man can build in his life. Before he steps into any relationship, before he shares his time, his energy, or his vision with someone else, he has to know who he is and what he stands for. A man with no girlfriend should not see his situation as a weakness, but as an opportunity to sharpen himself. It is the stage where he learns discipline, where he defines his values, and where he builds his character. Without self-mastery, relationships become a distraction rather than a partnership. With self-mastery, relationships become an extension of strength instead of a crutch for insecurity. When a man has no girlfriend, the silence around him can be uncomfortable. The world often tells him that his worth is measured by whether someone is choosing, but the truth is his worth is defined by how deeply he chooses himself. Mastering himself means he invests in his health, his mindset, his finances, and his vision. He takes time to understand his triggers, his habits, and his emotions. This level of work is not easy, but it transforms him from being reactive to being intentional. Instead of being pulled in different directions by desire or loneliness, he learns how to direct his energy like a weapon. That discipline makes him solid, and solid men are not shaken when life throws storms at them. Self-mastery also builds respect. A man who controls himself earns respect without asking for it. People can sense when a man is centered, when he doesn't need external approval to feel valuable. In a world where many chase validation through relationships, likes, or attention, the man who focuses inward stands out. His energy carries weight because it is not scattered. He walks into a room with quiet confidence, not because someone loves him, but because he has learned to love and respect himself first. That kind of energy not only attracts the right partner later on, but it also attracts opportunities, networks, and blessings. The absence of a girlfriend can expose weaknesses in a man. It can reveal his neediness, his impatience, or his dependence on external love. But if he chooses to face those weaknesses instead of running from them, he grows. Self-mastery is the art of turning solitude into power. Instead of filling that space with temporary company or distractions, he trains himself to live with discipline. He sets goals and holds himself accountable. He learns how to delay gratification, how to keep promises to himself, and how to push forward even when no one is watching. That's the kind of strength that makes a man unbreakable. When a man knows himself, he no longer fears being without a partner. He no longer feels incomplete because he has built a solid foundation inside. He becomes the type of man who doesn't just look for love out of need, but out of choice. A man without self-mastery may settle for anyone who gives him attention, but a man who has mastered himself knows the value of his time and his energy. He becomes selective, patient, and intentional. He understands that a girlfriend is not the definition of his manhood, but an addition to it when the right person aligns with his vision. Self-mastery turns solitude into strength and strength into freedom. It allows a man to walk his path without fear, without desperation, and without compromise. It allows him to lead himself before he ever tries to lead anyone else. That is why self-mastery comes first. It is the groundwork, the training, and the silent preparation for everything that follows. Independence is one of the purest forms of strength a man can carry. When a man stands on his own without relying on someone else to validate his worth, he develops a type of resilience that nothing outside of him can break. In a world where people chase approval, where men often feel pressure to measure themselves by whether someone is standing next to them, independence is the quiet rebellion. It is the refusal to let loneliness dictate choices, and it is the commitment to keep building even when there is no audience clapping. A man with no girlfriend is not a man who lacks something. He is a man who has been given the opportunity to sharpen his ability to walk through life without leaning on temporary comfort. That strength is not always loud, but it is undeniable. Independence teaches a man how to deal with himself. It teaches him to wake up every morning with no one pushing him, no one reminding him of his goals, and no one holding his hand through the process. He learns how to motivate himself when nobody texts him good morning. He learns how to push through his struggles without the soft cushion of someone else's reassurance. In that process, his willpower grows stronger and his confidence grows deeper. He stops needing validation and starts creating validation through action. This is a power that cannot be faked because it is forged in silence and solitude. When a man is independent, his relationships shift from dependency to choice. He doesn't stay with someone because he is scared of being alone. He doesn't settle for company just to fill a void. Instead, he becomes intentional. He knows he can stand tall without anyone else. So when he does choose to let someone in, it comes from alignment rather than desperation. That shift makes him harder to manipulate and harder to break because his sense of completeness doesn't rely on external conditions. Independence builds a shield around his spirit, one that makes him untouchable to games, pressure, and emotional instability. Independence also expands his vision. A man who depends on others for validation is easily distracted, but a man who's grounded in himself has more space to dream, create, and execute. He can focus on his grind without worrying about whether someone approves. He can invest his energy into building his empire instead of trying to impress someone into loving him. He realizes that love and relationships are powerful, but they cannot replace purpose. Independence gives him clarity to put first things first, to recognize that his mission in life comes before any title someone else gives him. At the same time, independence requires courage. Many men fear being alone, so they run any company that makes them feel seen. But facing solitude and standing on it builds real muscle. It takes bravery to walk through Friday nights with no partner, to eat meals alone, to build routines without someone's encouragement. Yet those same moments that feel heavy are the ones that carve strength into his spirit. Every time he survives loneliness without settling, he proves to himself that he can carry his own weight. That proof becomes his armor. A man who embraces independence doesn't close himself off from love, but he no longer sees love as oxygen. He knows he can breathe without it, and that knowledge changes everything. It gives him patience to wait for the right connection, the right woman, the right timing. It prevents him from losing himself in someone else because he already found himself alone. Independence, at its core, is strength disguised as solitude. It is a test, a season, and a preparation that molds a man into someone who does not need, but someone who chooses. Focus on the grind is what separates a man who drifts through life from a man who builds something lasting. When a man has no girlfriend, he is often gifted with an abundance of time and energy that many overlook. That space can either be wasted on distractions or channeled into the grind that shapes his future. The grind is not just about money, it is about purpose, discipline, and legacy. It is the daily choice to keep working, keep pushing, and keep building even when nobody's watching. For a man without a girlfriend, the grind becomes his closest companion, his teacher, and his proving ground. It sharpens his patience, strengthens his resolve, and creates a momentum that nothing external can match. Focusing on the grind demands sacrifice. It means turning down short-term pleasure for long-term success. It means working on a dream while others are out partying, training while others are sleeping, and studying while others waste time. When a man has no girlfriend, he can use his solitude to double down on that discipline. He has fewer distractions pulling at his emotions, fewer commitments pulling at his schedule, and more freedom to pour himself fully into his goals. That freedom, when taken seriously, can accelerate his growth far beyond what he imagined. A man who gives himself completely to the grind during these seasons of solitude often emerges years ahead of his peers. The grind also teaches him how to endure. Without the comfort of a relationship, he must find strength in his mission. Late nights feel longer, challenges feel heavier, but he learns how to lean on his vision instead of someone else's reassurance. That process toughens him. It turns his setbacks into fuel and his failures into lessons. Each obstacle he faces without someone to soften the blow prepares him to handle bigger responsibilities in the future. The grind makes him unbreakable because it forces him to rely on nothing but his own willpower and commitment. When a man focuses on the grind, he also learns the art of consistency. Love and relationships can sometimes distract men with highs and lows, but the grind demands steady progress. It does not care about moods. It does not adjust for feelings. It only rewards persistence. That kind of discipline carries over into every area of his life. His body gets stronger if he trains, his mind sharpens if he studies, his finances grow if he works with strategy. None of it happens overnight, but the grind rewards the man who shows up day after day. Solitude gives him the chance to master that consistency before anything else competes for his energy. The grind is also a filter. As a man builds himself, he begins to see clearly who belongs in his life and who doesn't. He learns to separate real support from empty words. When he eventually attracts a partner, it will not be because he was desperate, but because he was already moving with purpose. That foundation makes future relationships healthier because they are built on alignment rather than dependency. The grind sharpens his standards, and standards protect him from wasting time. Most importantly, focusing on the grind gives a man identity. Without it, he risks defining himself only by his relationships. But when he is grounded in his purpose, he knows who is, whether he is single or not. His value comes from his work ethic, his vision, and his ability to create. The grind becomes his anchor, the thing that holds him steady no matter what changes in his personal life. That focus allows him to remain whole even when life feels empty. For a man with no girlfriend, it is the grind that fills the silence, strengthens the spirit, and builds the future. Temporary loneliness is something every man feels at some point in his life, but the way he responds to it determines whether it breaks him or builds him. When a man has no girlfriend, there are moments when the silence feels heavy, when the nights stretch long, and when he wishes for someone to share the little victories with. That emptiness can feel sharp, But the truth is that it is only temporary. What lasts longer, what carries weight beyond the moment, is the growth he gains when he chooses not to run from that loneliness but to face it head on. Growth is permanent. It stays with him, shaping his mindset, his habits, and his strength long after the season of loneliness has passed. Loneliness often exposes the raw parts of a man. It reveals insecurities, impatience, and the craving for validation. Without someone there to cover those feelings, he is forced to confront them. That confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is also where growth begins. When he learns how to sit with his thoughts, how to process his emotions, and how to stand firm without needing constant reassurance, he transforms. Instead of being controlled by loneliness, he starts controlling it. He learns to use it as fuel for self-discovery and development. This is growth that cannot be taken away no matter what happens in the future. The power of temporary loneliness is that it creates space for permanent change. A man who has no girlfriend can pour his time and energy into sharpening himself. He can focus on building skills, mastering discipline, and chasing goals that will pay off for decades. While others might use relationships to escape their own emptiness, he uses solitude to fill himself from within. That process makes him stronger and more independent. It ensures that when he eventually does enter a relationship, he comes into it whole, not broken. He brings value instead of searching for it in someone else. Loneliness can trick a man into thinking something is wrong with him, but often it is simply a season meant to prepare him. Seasons change, but the lessons from them do not fade. A man who embraces his solitude learns patience, and patience shapes his decisions. He no longer jumps into situations out of desperation. He no longer lowers his standards to avoid being alone. Instead, he becomes selective, steady, and intentional. Growth teaches him that loneliness is not a curse but a classroom. The lessons may be tough, but the rewards are lifelong. Permanent growth is what turns a man from someone searching for identity into someone who carries it. Every late night he pushes through alone. Every doubt he silences without needing outside comfort. Every day he chooses discipline instead of distraction. He builds himself. Those bricks of growth stack one on top of the other until he has a foundation that no storm can shake. Loneliness may pass, but that foundation will hold him steady in every season that comes after. The beauty of understanding this balance is that a man stops fearing loneliness. He stops seeing it as a punishment and starts treating it as preparation. Growth is permanent because it reshapes his mindset forever. It turns temporary emptiness into lifelong abundance. It molds him into a man who can stand firm alone, but also lead with strength when he chooses to share his life with someone else. The loneliness fades, but the growth remains. And that is what carries him forward into every stage of life with confidence and clarity. Energy management is one of the most important lessons a man can learn, especially when he has no girlfriend. Every day he wakes up with a limited amount of energy. Where that energy goes determines the quality of his life, the speed of his progress, and the strength of his future. Relationships require time, focus, emotions, and sacrifices. Without one, a man has the ability to channel that energy back into himself and his vision. That is not a weakness, it is an advantage. When he learns how to direct his energy instead of wasting it on things that do not serve him, he begins to see the difference between motion and progress. Motion is running in circles. Progress is taking steps that actually lead somewhere. Managing his energy is the bridge between those two. A man with no girlfriend often finds himself with extra emotional space. He doesn't have to deal with arguments, expectations, or the weight of someone else's moods. That space can feel empty at times, but it is actually valuable real estate. If he pours that energy into distractions, gossip, or meaningless habits, he wastes it. But if he pours it into fitness, learning, business, or building his character, he multiplies it. Energy is like money. Spend it on the wrong things and it disappears without return. Invest it in the right places and it compounds into growth, opportunities, and freedom. Managing energy also means learning how to protect it. A man cannot afford to let everyone and everything pull from him. Without awareness, he might give energy to people who drain him, to habits that weaken him, or to emotions that exhaust him. A man who is intentional learns how to guard his focus. He knows when to say no, when to step back, and when to walk away. That self-control keeps his energy sharp. It allows him to stay productive, clear-minded, and driven. Without a girlfriend, he has the chance to build these boundaries early, shaping himself into someone who cannot be easily distracted or manipulated later. The way a man manages his energy directly impacts his growth. Every workout is energy spent. Every hour reading, working, or practicing a skill is energy spent. But these investments return stronger than what he gave. His body becomes healthier, his mind becomes sharper, and his pockets become deeper. On the other hand, wasted energy leaves him drained with nothing to show for it. Nights spent chasing validation, mornings lost to laziness, or days spent on empty entertainment do not pay him back. Energy management is about knowing the difference between what feeds him and what bleeds him. Even emotions are part of energy. Anger, jealousy, and loneliness can consume a man if he lets them run wild. But if he learns to redirect those emotions into his grind, they fuel him. The frustration of being alone can push him to level up. The hunger for connection can turn into hunger for success. The sting of rejection can sharpen his focus. Energy is never lost, it is only transferred. A man who masters this truth learns how to transform what could break him into what builds him. Energy management is not just about productivity, it's about sustainability. A man cannot burn himself out chasing goals either. He has to balance effort with recovery. Rest, discipline, and focus all work together. Without a girlfriend, He has the chance to learn his rhythms, to master how much he can push, and when he needs to recharge. This mastery ensures that when the right relationship does come, he already knows how to balance his energy without losing himself. Every day, energy is spent. The only question is whether it was wasted or invested. A man with no girlfriend has the perfect opportunity to learn how to manage it wisely, to use it as fuel for his vision instead of letting it leak away. That skill becomes one of the most valuable assets he can carry, because while money, status, or attention can come and go, the ability to control where his energy flows will always keep him powerful. Attraction through purpose is a principle that changes the way a man views relationships and the way relationships view him. When a man lives with focus, when he pours his energy into his goals and builds his life with direction, he naturally begins to draw the right kind of attention. Purpose has a gravity to it. People feel it without needing it to be explained. They can see it in the way a man walks, in the discipline behind his habits, and in the consistency of his actions. He doesn't have to chase validation because his vision already speaks for him. A man with no girlfriend who locks in on his purpose often finds that the right partner eventually appears, not because he begged for love, but because he embodied growth, strength, and direction that others respect. Purpose is magnetic because it reflects clarity. A man without purpose moves through life unsure, distracted, and reactive. That energy repulses stability because it communicates that he is still searching. But when a man has defined his mission, when he knows why he wakes up every morning, he radiates certainty. That certainty is rare, and rare things are attractive. It is not about perfection, it is about direction. People are drawn to men who know where they are going because it signals leadership, vision, and consistency. In a world full of confusion, clarity is irresistible. Attraction through purpose also creates alignment. A man chasing his goals is not trying to impress everyone. He is building the kind of life that attracts people who fit into it. Without purpose, he might accept anyone just to fill a void. With purpose, he filters naturally. The wrong people fall away because they cannot keep up with his drive. The right ones step forward because they see themselves in his vision. That kind of attraction is deeper than looks or charm. It is rooted in shared values and direction. It is built on substance instead of surface. Purpose requires sacrifice, and that sacrifice creates respect. When a man chooses to grind instead of wasting his time, when he disciplines himself instead of giving into every distraction, people notice. They might not always understand it, but they recognize the strength it takes. That recognition grows into admiration, and admiration grows into attraction. The same hours that feel lonely while he is working will one day become the reason people look at him differently. They will see the results of his focus, and they will feel the weight of his dedication. Purpose speaks louder than words. Living with purpose also protects a man from desperation. He does not need to chase love recklessly because his life already has meaning. He does not settle for anyone who will simply keep him company because he knows his mission deserves someone who adds value, not someone who drains it. That patience may feel slow, but it ensures that when he does connect, it is with the right person at the right time. Attraction built on purpose is sustainable because it is grounded in who he is, not just in what he feels. Purpose-driven men attract not only partners but also opportunities, networks, and respect. The same qualities that make him appealing in relationships make him powerful in life. His determination, his consistency, and his focus become traits that elevate him in every area. Love is just one of the many things that purpose pulls toward him. What started as solitude becomes abundance. What started as silence becomes recognition. Attraction through purpose is not about manipulation or trying to appear more than he is. It is about becoming so locked into growth, discipline, and direction that people cannot help but notice. It is about proving through action that he is a man who can build, protect, and lead. That type of energy cannot be fake, and it cannot be hidden. Purpose makes him magnetic. It ensures that even in seasons when he has no girlfriend, he is still becoming the type of man that the right partner will be drawn to when the time comes. So when they look at you and say, "He's just a man with no girlfriend," let them talk. Because what they don't see is the foundation you're building. They don't see the nights you spent grinding instead of chasing. They don't see the battles you fought in silence, the discipline you carved into your soul, or the patience you learned when the world told you to rush. You are not defined by who stands beside you. You are defined by the purpose you carry, the vision you build, and the strength you develop when nobody is watching. Girlfriend or no girlfriend, your manhood is not measured by company, it's measured by character. The truth is, solitude is not punishment, it's preparation. Every season without love is a season with lessons. Every moment of loneliness is an invitation to grow. And when the time is right, when you've mastered yourself, when your energy is sharp, when your purpose is clear, the right one will come. Not because you needed her to complete you, but because you became complete on your own. A man with no girlfriend is not lacking, he is becoming, and becoming is the real power.